Hey Ratbags, it's Jade. Here I am with my ultimate tips guide, everything you wish you knew before venturing into Mistlands, or everything I wish I knew, certainly. I think this will help players particularly get to grips if you've not been catching up too much. It will contain spoilers regarding enemies, places that you explore, and some of the stuff that you're going to be crafting, but that's kind of what to expect, right? Find it useful, leave a like, check out my streams for more Valheim content, and let's go. If you've watched any kind of YouTube or stream action, you'll know now that you need to defeat Yagaluf to get his special drops. With his Torn Spirit, you'll be able to go ahead and make the Wisp Fountains that are vital in exploring the Mistlands. They only spawn at night, so you make sure you pop these down in any biome and collect as many wisps as you can. You can also use them for special lights as you go that will also dissipate the mist. You want to be able to stockpile and make as many of these as possible, just in case you have to do death runs through the mist to get your gear back. At least have some of these available to help you. You'll also need an abundance of silver, as it needs one piece to craft alongside the wisp. They really will help guide you through the mist, but be warned, having this mist light means you can be seen by the Jarl. The Jarl are one of the brand new enemies in the Mistlands, and of course it's devastating. Not only does it fire huge spurts of fire damage, it also drops these horrible ticks. As long as you've not come directly within eyesight of one, maybe within a clearance of the mist, you should be able to hide within the mist as long as you don't make any sound, like using a pickaxe, and you don't have your wisp light turned on. Once it senses you, that might be a different matter. But it's well worth experimenting to keep yourself away from the most deadliest creature in Mistlands. Chickens are the newest addition to the Mistlands, and you'll be able to go ahead and farm and raise these so that you can have as many feathers, as much meat and as much eggs as you want. Originally though, you will have to find Holdor and buy an egg from him, but you won't be able to do that until you've defeated Yagaluf. It does cost 1500 gold coins, so make sure you got enough, and you'll need 2 eggs at least to hopefully start collecting more, as they'll mate once you feed them any kind of seed. You just need to make sure that the eggs that you first get are placed in a small coop close to some sort of fire so that they're warm. Then chuck any of the surplus seeds that you never use, tree seeds, vegetable seeds, whatever it is you don't really use, and you leave them alone, and they'll usually spawn every 1 to 2 days a brand new egg. Then takes another 1 to 2 days for that egg to turn into a chicken, and then you've got yourself a chicken farm. The new foods overwhelmingly give you huge buffs to your stamina, not to mention your health. You will need, of course, some of the new materials also to craft and make these meals, and you'll need your actual kitchen to be upgraded to level 5 using the new pestle and mortar. Of course, you are going to need some of the new materials from the Mistlands, like black marble, to go ahead and craft it. Black marble can be gotten in a variety of different ways. One of them ways though, kind of cheaty if you're lucky enough to come across any of the ruins, is to bring yourself a stonecutter's table, and you'll be able to go ahead and demolish any of the ruins, instantly getting yourself black marble. Bring a forge with you, and you can also dismantle some of these iron constructs that you'll find in the bridges particularly, and you get yourself super easy iron ingots. You'll come across statues, much like Easter Island, and lots of ruins as well, which we'll talk about in terms of outposts. The way you're meant to get black marble though is coming across these excavations, where you'll find the Virgil dwarves trying to basically dig up the soft tissue inside, as that's what you're going to need for magic. We'll come on to that in a second. But you'll see this petrified bone, so this is what you need to use your brand new black pickaxe to go ahead and mine the petrified bone and the soft tissue inside. No other pickaxes will work. You can also find smaller little light fixtures as well, that if you break from the top down, you should get around 4 black marble for each one. Although these cannot be dismantled using any kind of stonecutter's bench. You'll come across Virgil dwarves that won't harm you as long as you don't destroy any of their goods inside their outposts, or obviously do any damage to them directly, but eventually you might need to break into these special boxes with white and blue on them. They say you get Virgil extractors, which you'll need to go ahead and start getting some sap, which then gets refined into ether. You'll also need that sap to go ahead and craft yourself some of the brand new building crafting benches. That soft tissue that we saw inside the petrified bone, you can also get that from killing some of the Virgil dwarves. But think on before you go ahead and do that. Although you need the soft tissue to help power the refinery that eventually you'll be able to make to get the ether once you put sap in it as well. You'll be missing out on some much needed protection from the Virgil dwarves. They will attack and kill anything that comes close to their outpost, whether that's Jarl or some of the brand new Seeker enemies. They do have a ward stone inside their outpost that you can still go ahead and destroy. Once that's done, you can take over these outposts as your own very base. I would say it might seem reasonable to do so, and then you've got a much stronger area to go from, but I would recommend first finding another one that you can also take over, hopefully close by, or finding enough resources to build a base nearer, but not definitely directly inside the Mistlands. Having these guys very close to you as extra protection is vital, so you don't really want to go and kill the first batch that you come across. It is a risk and it is a balance because you will need them divergent extractors, but I still reckon it's worth the first one that you come across, keeping safe until you've explored all the areas around and seen what else there is about. Once you're more secure, you've built a base maybe very up high with at least a portal to come through, then you can think about taking over one of these and putting all your brand new defences on to take care of the Jarl. Black marble will protect you much better than stone. A Jarl can destroy a stone fortress in a matter of minutes. Likewise, some of the more heavy duty seekers can also munch through stone, even the black marble fairly easily too. So if you do overtake one of these, make sure you go ahead and repair every brick, every piece of that marble fortress. Any doors that you use, make sure they're heavy duty or you've got some sort of airlock just to protect yourself from any ticks that might get in or some seekers. In terms of where or how to build a base, don't think about it too soon, as that was one of my biggest mistakes going in. We lost absolutely almost everything being destroyed by a Jarl, even though we built slightly outside the Mistlands. If the mist is still in sight, there's a chance they can come wandering over, especially if you're making lots of noise. Instead, what you want to do is build a base as high as you can, preferably if you see snow on some of the peaks of the Mistlands cliffs. Generally, the Jarl won't rise above that mist, that's where they patrol, unless you're making any kind of mining sounds. So don't bother trying to landscape any of the mountains. You can't flatten any of the mountains using a hoe. You can take away chunks of the rock, but it leaves pretty nasty shards everywhere, so I wouldn't really bother. Build wooden walkways and stuff around to help you get down, easy and up, and then think about just exploring the area with that safe portal untouched by any of the creatures high above. Alternatively, not every outpost that you come across is going to be a divergent one. You will actually find that in the bottom of some of these outposts there are infested mines. This is where you're going to be getting the new black cores that you're going to need for a lot of the crafting benches and more, and of course being able to take care of some of the seekers and get some of the royal jelly, which you'll also need for some of the brand new food recipes. Infested mines are home obviously to lots of seekers. You may find soldiers in here as well as some of the seeker brood, the younger versions of the seekers. They can be a formidable challenge. So clear out one room at a time, don't run in too hastily, try and let some of the creatures come to you at the entrance before slowly making your way around. You'll find a lot of the black cores in secret rooms marked by that rune on a stone, so go in here and get all the loot that's inside the chests as well. Kind of wish I knew not to explore some of the further reaches of these infested places, as they'll often lead to just more seekers but not much more loot. So always explore the hidden doors and any gateways that you come across, but if you've got enough cores to craft what you need, maybe think twice about exploring further and deeper until you've got maybe better gear and armour. Often these horrific slimy steps will just lead to more seekers and not much loot. The new Mistlands is very tough to fight creatures on. There's lots of places where you just won't have a stable footing, as the discrepancy in the land going up and down means you can't always get a direct hit on enemies. So you have to really pick and choose when to fight and when not to. With the new added knockback, it's absolutely deadly fighting anywhere close to water. One hit from a seeker chucking you into the water and you'll be dead within seconds. So really pay attention, make sure you've got a good shield to go ahead and block, and don't get yourself with your back to water. Easier said than done, right? But there are specific places where it's better to fight these guys, so make sure you do, and stay away from some of the 1-star creatures, obviously, until you've got better armour. Seekers, especially the soldiers, have weak spots on the back of them, so you need to angle around and get round them, and then hopefully you can survive their first initial onslaughts. But it really is the terrain that will actually get you killed more if you're not paying attention. Any kind of piercing or frost arrows are always good for range until you get hold of some of the new magical weapons. But otherwise, a good shield and obviously a black metal sword is going to be the next best thing. Poison effects can also work out good. Fire arrows, yes, they'll do damage over time, but they don't have the most piercing damage. So yeah, I would leave that as the worst option compared to some of the others. To not be overwhelmed, use range to try and take out some of the egg sacs and release the brood one at a time, and then you can deal with the babies fairly easily. Fire does work particularly good for the egg sacs, and eventually once you get the ember staff, you'll find these are pretty much a doddle. This is where you'll often find the royal jelly that you're going to need. So while we're here, we might as well talk about some of the other creatures more. The Jarl really are a challenge, and the first time you encounter them, I'm sure it's going to be like an overwhelming odds. I have done some testing with them in certain places, and it's definitely viable that you get a lot of range and aim from below. I know it's going to be difficult with the ticks there, and you might instantly think to get up as high as you can, but these guys can actually go high and above the mist if they sense that you're there. A lot of enemies and mobs all have weak spots now, and the weak spot for the Jarl is directly underneath that big pink fleshy bit. Needle arrows, obsidian arrows, they're going to be some of the best until again you get some of the magic powers unlocked, anything with high piercing damage. But that's not to say that some of the other elemental types won't be good. Poison and frost arrows could also be beneficial, and even at a push, fire arrows are not the best, but if it's all you've got, then it's certainly going to still be better just regular arrows. Although the Jarl does have a fire ability, it still takes damage from fire. The ticks that drop can do devastating damage, especially if you get 2 or 3 of them on you, and the fire damage that the Jarl launches is around 5 seconds long, so you've got to be really prepared for that hitting you. As long as you took some fire resistance potions, maybe used the obviously bone mass ability rather than the Yagluth one, since you can craft the fire potions instead, or heck, even have some of the obviously Fenret armor to help against some of the fire. You'll be able to shake off the ticks by dodge rolling, but obviously once they get on you, it can be hard to shake them all off, especially if there's 2 or 3. The ballistas weren't particularly great in the PTB, they weren't aiming far up enough, but they have been adjusted now, so I do believe they're going to be much better for defense, but you still want to make sure you've got these placed pretty high and maybe protected. They'll auto shoot anything in front, including players, unless any changes happen. The devs have explored on Twitter what players want in a poll, so we may see some changes, but for now you have to load manually, so think of it as just like an extra few weapons laying around your base, ready in case you have to shoot any big Seeker soldiers or some of these guys. There are so many new weapons added to the game, new bows of course, and of course the new Arbalista crossbow. You're going to obviously need some of the brand new resources. You saw that you get the Idrisil wood from chopping down saplings with a black axe, and the black pickaxe you can actually chop into some of these armament remains to go ahead and get iron scraps, which can then obviously be melted into iron ingots. You'll also find copper scraps laying around in the Diverger camps too once you've destroyed any of their structures. But out of all of them resources, it's absolutely vital that you eventually get a Diverger extractor. There are many weapons to go ahead and mess around with, and they've all got some great uses for sure, but I would really focus on getting the brand new crafting benches set up and making sure you've got enough of the refined ether to really start having a magic build. You'll need black metal for the Diverger extractor, and then you can craft a sap extractor and plant it inside the Idrisil roots. They'll replenish around 10 per day, although eventually the roots can actually diminish and you might only get 6. For now, it doesn't look like the roots actually ever fully run out. It just might take a couple days for it to replen completely. So you will need a bunch of these eventually to keep getting as much sap as possible. You can't take it through any teleporters, which is obviously understandable as it can only really be used in the Mistlands. So once you've scoped out Mistlands area, found a couple of Diverger camps, use one as a friendly and then take the other one out so you can get the resources needed to craft the refinery. Word of warning, the refinery does do damage to your structures nearby. It's actually the ether that's so powerful it can take damage to any of your structures with the sparks that fly out. So make sure you're keeping an eye on the ether when it drops and you're picking it up before it actually does any lasting damage to any of your buildings. The best bet is to have your refinery outside and make sure that there's nothing too close to it. Once you start getting the ether, you'll be able to craft a new Jarl table. This is obviously where you can get the magic items. But even the black forge, you'll still need plenty of ether to go ahead and craft. So you're going to need lots of the black cores. One of the best new brown weapons you should try and aim for is the Himmelfall Atgar. It does lightning damage which can shock and stun creatures, even Seeker soldiers, and it's a really good one for also getting around them and try and take on their weak spots. But it's really magic where the beauty of Mistlands lies, using the new magical weapons. You've got the Dead Razor, which literally raises skeletons. Once you upgrade it to level 2, you'll then be able to go ahead and summon 2 of these guys. It uses up something called blood magic, which is a new skill which governs not only raising the dead, but also using a protective blood bubble for you and your friends. Also got the Staff of Frost, which does frost damage, of course. And of course the Ember Staff, which does a fireball damage at distance and range. I actually like using this one the most as it's fairly easy to get a good hit on. The blood bubble will protect you. It does about 2 or 3 protection hits, maybe more if you get it right leveled up to 100%. It does use up your health though when you go ahead and use it. As well as the brand new Ether bar. This is the new bar that's been added. When you use magic, you're not using any of your stamina, so it's important that you start thinking about magical foods. Do not pass up any opportunities to pick up Mage Cap, the blue glowy mushroom fungi that you'll see in the Mistlands, as this is one of the main ingredients in Ether food. And the brand new Jotun Puffs balls as well. These can also contribute a lot to the recipes that you're going to need. There are also brand new potions added to the game. Major potions now will give you much more health and stamina, etc. Some enemies don't particularly take any weakness damage with magical weapons, like the Jarl. You don't have to aim at their weak spot because it doesn't do any additional damage. But of course, anywhere you're hitting with this, you're doing a huge amount. Magic, of course, is governed by its own new bar and its own new skill. So blood magic for the protective spell and raising the dead. And then you've got the brand new Ether skill, which will govern your ice and fire damage. These are super fun to use. It will take a while for you to craft these as they need many resources and some of the hardest to get stuff in the obviously Mistlands, but it's well worth it and it will make the rest of the game super easy at the moment. So yeah, I would focus on getting these as soon as possible. And of course the brand new armor sets, which there are now 2. One focused on magic, which helps regenerate your Ether bar 100% quicker. And then the Carapace armor, which is obviously just a better version of any of the other armors that you've come across. And not forgetting one of the most important pieces, maybe I should have included it earlier, although you won't be able to craft it until you get the magic crafting station, is the Feather Cape. The Feather Cape will negate any damage you take from falling. You can pretty much glide across big distances almost as you fall. So it's definitely worth focusing on this as soon as you get the Jarl table. And so far, that's pretty much it. That's everything I wish I knew before playing the game. Obviously, I know it might be a bit spoilerific, but if you're watching this video, you probably don't care. You just want to be prepared as much as possible for the first trip into the Mistlands. There are some new other mechanics added, like some of the fishing, but I wouldn't really bother too much time on that as you don't really get any benefit other than increasing your stamina slightly and maybe getting some extra fish. And things like the brand new troll traps, I think they're only specific use cases. I wouldn't waste too many materials on them just yet. Obviously, the black marble pieces do have much better health than stone, so eventually you do want to start building your bases out of them just to help along. And don't forget that vents can happen as well. The Jarl can attack almost anywhere. You don't need a base while exploring the Mistlands, but them and the Seeker event both won't actually work until you have gone and defeated Yagaloth. You'll be pleased to know that mostly the Jarl won't happen unless you're in the Mistlands, although be careful for any Mistlands bordering close by to your base in the plains. When it does happen, you've got a chance of getting a 1-star tick that can also drop, and sometimes there's 2 Jarls that will attack. The Seekers, you'll get a bunch of them, 4 or 5, and at least 1 soldier and a few of the smaller brood, and these can happen anywhere once you've defeated Yagaloth. It looks like once you defeat the Queen, then you don't have a chance of triggering any of the Seekers after that, but the Jarl will still happen as they're a special event kind of close to what the Wolves are. So there we go, absolutely everything you need to know ahead of a trip into the Mistlands. Obviously more to do with the boss and how to find it and more advanced tips. That will be coming soon. Check out the rest of my guides and content. And I'll see you ratbags hopefully once you've recovered from the many deaths you're about to have in the Mistlands. Laters.